everyone. So today we were gonna be talking about tax. So before we proceed to the other three topics, let us first discuss about tax. So what is tax? Tax, or the value-added tax, was first introduced less than 50 years ago, remained confined to a handful of countries until the late 1960s. Value-added tax, or the VAT, taxes the value that is added at each stage of production of certain commodities. A VAT discourages consumption even more so than the current sales tax system because it would apply to all goods and services. The VAT is being considered in addition to a sales tax. So what is sales tax? Sales tax are big revenue boosters for states. They are used to support state and local government projects and services. A VAT, on the other hand, is like a national sales tax where the revenue would go directly to the US government. Therefore, a VAT is a form of double taxation. A sales tax at the state of level, at a VAT at the federal level.
Hello, today we are going to talk about the brief history of value-added tax in global arena. The value-added tax is relatively a new tax. It was designed by two people independently in the early 20th century. According to Wilhelm von Siemens, a German businessman, the VAT was a way to resolve the cascading problems that arose in implementing gross turnovers and sales taxes. While according to Thomas S. Adams, an American, the VAT was a better version of the corporate income tax. In practice, governments have implemented the VAT largely as an improved sales tax. European countries, for example, have largely used the VAT to reduce or eliminate other sales taxes. The countries continue to maintain separate corporate income taxes. And many European countries enacted a VAT in 1960s and 1970s. Other countries followed in 1980s and thereafter. Sjebren Senosen, a leading VAT expert from Maastricht University in the Netherlands, called the most important event in the evolution of tax structure in the last half of the 20th century. Commentators generally agree as to what constitutes an ideal or good VAT regime. The prescriptions entail a flat rate VAT extending through to the retail stage of the economy. The consensus as to what constitutes an ideal VAT is matched by widespread acknowledgement, and these prescriptions are often met only in the breach. And that could be all. Thank you, and to be continued.
As a continuation, we can speak of three main varieties of VAT: the European model, and the New Zealand model, and the Japanese model. New Zealand comes closest to resembling the ideal, that is, levied at a single rate on a relatively broad base. Most jurisdictions have adopted a European-style VAT marked by multiple rates and varying degrees of exemptions. In practice, no two VATs look exactly alike, with differences in rates, thresholds, exemptions, refund, and coverage. Some VATs exist subnationally or are limited to the manufacturing or wholesale level. Many believe that VAT spread globally because it is the consumption tax best suited to the revenue needs of states in an increasingly globalized economy. Even those who recognize the role of key regional and international institutions in promoting VAT often attribute the motives behind the promotion to the merits of the policy instrument itself. As a result, the rise of the VAT is attributed to such virtues as the tax being the best method of taxing general consumption, its neutral treatment of export, and its revenue-raising capacity, which may be a matter of concern for those opposed to enhancing government's ability to provide public goods and services. That's the end of the history of VAT in global arena. Thank you.
It all started from the ancient Filipinos, where they paid their taxes to their datu, or the chiefs, for the protection they gave to them. The tax was termed buwis. Everyone is required to pay their taxes except for the datu or the chieftain's household. Punishment for not paying taxes was also implemented in this period. The arrival or invasion of the Spanish people from 1521 to 1898 gave the Filipinos modern concepts of taxation, wherein 16 years old to 60 years old were forced to pay tributes or tributo to the King of Spain through the colonial government, worth 8 reals or 1 peso per year. There are also other forms of payment like gold, chickens, textile, rice, and forced labor or polo y servicio. In 1884, the tribute was abolished and was replaced by the cedula or sidula, a certificate identifying the taxpayer that needs to be carried all the time. If someone is not able to present their cedula to a guardia civil, they will be imprisoned for being indocumentado, which means that they lack valid document or legal personal identification necessary to prove their identity. It was followed by the 1987 Philippine Constitution, stating that it sets limitation on the exercise of the power to tax. The rule of taxation shall be uniform and equitable. The Congress shall evolve a progressive system of taxation, wherein the Philippines covers both national and local. President Rodrigo Duterte implemented the Train Law or Tax Reform for Acceleration and Inclusion, which was signed last January 1, 2018, which seeks to correct a number of deficiencies in the tax system to make it simpler, fairer, and more efficient, wherein the rich will have a bigger contribution and the poor will benefit more from the government's program and services.
So, after knowing the history of VAT in the Philippine setting and the history of VAT in the global arena, right now we will be talking about the importance of imposing the VAT. So, why is it important to impose the VAT? Imposing the VAT is important since it is a tax on consumption which is borne by the consumers. It is applicable on 554 goods. VAT protects consumer from the cascading effect of the turnover tax, which is tax on each sale with no credit for the tax paid at earlier stages. Moreover, VAT is levied both on local as well as imported goods. Similar goods and services are taxed equally, and VAT is applicable at different stages of production. VAT made the game much fairer because now you will be taxed based on the type of goods and services rather than the uniform rates. With VAT, it means you will be saving on revenue which would be previous sales tax regulations you possibly wouldn't have. Clearly, the VAT is a major source of revenue wherever it has been adopted. The standard rate is higher in Western Europe and in transition economies than elsewhere, being lowest in the Asia-Pacific region. Moreover, Western Europe and the North Africa and the Middle East have the most complex VATs in terms of the number of rates. In contrast, it is the regions in which the spread of VAT has been most recent, Africa, the transitions of economies, and the small islands that typically had the simplest VAT tax structures. Finally, and with obvious implications for the perceived effectiveness of the tax, only 5 countries have ever removed a VAT. The first one is the Vietnam in the 1970s, Grenada introduced 1986 and gradually dismantled, Ghana introduced March 1995, removed 2 months later. Malta introduced 1995, removed on 1997, and lastly, and the least, it is introduced by 1996 and removed by 1999. So, there are 11 reasons why VAT is very important to be imposed. Number 1 is to be based on consumption and thus provide a stable revenue base. Be neutral, since it would be imposed on all types of businesses. It provides stronger incentives for businesses to control costs. And it encourages or at least not discourage savings. Have the potential for raising large amounts of revenue at a low tax rate, and it is simple and be administered. It reduces obstacles to export under certain conditions, and it helps bring about a better balanced tax system. VAT would eliminate, so advocates assert, the libertant U.S. income tax system, since the VAT is so much more efficient and would bring more revenue. A VAT would also solve the problem of lost online sales taxes, since the imposition of VAT would mean that all sales, even online sales, would be taxed. And lastly, a VAT would provide additional income to reduce the deficit and fund critical programs like healthcare for every American. So to end this report, me and my group mates, which are Mr. Christian Dale Jungao, Mr. Lorjan Nicor, Mr. Raymart Cuevas, and yours truly, Mary Grace Alota, we are all wishing you the best, and I hope that you learned something from us. Have a good day and God bless. Thank you, everyone.